Christoper Rios, even known as Big Pun or Big Punisher, was a Bronx prodigy. During his life, he only released one album, a few singles, and featured on a couple of tracks. This video will take a deep look into the life of Pun, from growing up in an abusive home to becoming one of the biggest Latino rappers ever. This is the Big Pun story. Christoper was born on November the 10th, 1971. In the south of Bronx, and growing up for him was very difficult. His mother was a drug addict who couldn't nurture him, and his stepfather would abuse him both physically and mentally. The drama would lead to Pun being stressed out, and to deal with his temper he would punch holes in walls and eat the leftover rocks that fell out. His family was also very poor, which led to Pun going through a lot of hunger and not being able to dress properly. In order to get the money, he decided the street was the best option, and he started to sell drugs. It was an easy and quick option. However, it wasn't the best, and eventually the law caught up to him, and he had to spend one night in jail. The experience shook him up so badly, he swore to never be arrested again. Therefore, Christoper told his mother he didn't want to sell any more drugs, which led to him getting kicked out from the house. For a while, Christoper was going from place to place where he could sleep and get something to eat. However, he would soon get a lucky break. When Christoper was 4 to 5 years old, he fell from a construction site, and due to the fall, he broke his ankle, which ended up in a lawsuit. It took a long time to settle, but by the time Christoper was 18 years old, the settlements were completed, and he ended up earning $500,000 from the case, which would begin a new chapter in his life. From the money, he became self-sufficient. He could afford to buy an apartment, proper clothes, and he had now the time to focus on his biggest passion, hip-hop. Around this time, he started to hook up with Cuban Link, and it was the beginning of one of Christoper's most important friendships in his life. They had a few common interests, like boxing, playing ball, football, and of course, hip-hop. And together with the rappers Triple Seis and Prospect, they started a group named Full Eclipse Crew. They became like a family, and every day they became more and more serious about hip-hop, and their preparations would soon meet opportunity. One day the crew were hanging out at a grocery store, just rhyming, freestyling and doing their thing, and they had no idea this day would change their lives forever. The rapper named Fat Joe was out and about cruising through the neighborhood, and he was craving a Diet Coke, so he decided to stop by the closest grocery store. And as he was walking out, he got stopped by Cuban Link, who wanted to show off Big Pun and all of the skills he possessed. And let's just say Fat Joe was blown away, and he wanted to take Big Pun to the studio immediately after.
I met Big Pun in the bodega. I'm coming out the bodega, these niggas is freestyling. The nigga says the illest rhyme I ever heard in my life. He said some shit, snatch the moon out the sky and blow the sun away. Like, I was like, yo, this nigga's crazy, right?
And the two of them started working immediately. However, Big Pun only had one important condition. If Fat Joe was gonna help him, he was gonna help Full Eclipse Crew as well. Sooner than later, Big Pun started to appear on a couple of Fat Joe tracks, like Firewater and Watch Out, and he began to make a name for himself in the underground scene. Fat Joe would later go on to help him sign with Loud Records, and in 1997, he released the singles I'm Not a Player and You Ain't a Killer. Both tracks were very successful, and the following year he would release his first album, Capital Punishment. It was filled with great tracks like Beware, Still Not a Player and Twins, and Full Eclipse Crew got their features as promised. As expected, the album became a success and it went double platinum. As a result, Big Pun became the first Latino rapper to achieve this status, which inspired a whole new generation of rappers from the Latin community. Even the Puerto Rican rapper Daddy Yankee once said in an interview that he considers Big Pun to be the best, and that he will always be the face that represents Latinos in hip-hop. Big Pun and Fat Joe became very close during these times, and together they were the perfect team. Fat Joe was managing the business and Pun was producing the hits. Pun was even so good at making hits, he used to explain to Fat Joe how to make them, which helped Fat Joe to be the rapper he is today.
And even though I discovered Big Pun, the truth is he taught me how to make hit records. So he's literally sat me down. Like, I wouldn't do that for nobody no more. Literally sat me down, was like, yo, right about here, you gotta talk to the girls, Joe. Right about here, we gotta keep it gangster. Here, we gotta keep the work. And he literally showed me.
Together, they went on to form the Latino hip-hop collective named Terror Squad, alongside Cuban Link, Prospect, Armageddon and Triple Seis. And in 1999, they released their first album with the major hit, What You Gonna Do. Pun is also often associated with Digging in the Crates crew, due to featuring on the tracks Where You At and Drop It Heavy. The crew consisted of Lord Finesse, Big L, AG, Diamond D, OC, Fat Joe and Buck Wild. And even if he wasn't a member, he sure sounded like one, with his smooth flow and extraordinary lyrics. Everything was going in the right direction for Christoper. He got nominated to the Grammys, he performed on the walkout for the famous boxer Felix Trinidad, and he also began to start a family. Everything seemed to be great, but this was far away from the truth. Big Pun was deteriorating from the inside out due to the issues he had as a child that were never resolved. And to deal with the depression, he would eat. His weight spiraled out of control and he gained weight like no other. And his child trauma didn't only affect him, it would also affect his wife, Lisa Rios. And their many arguments would often lead to violent fights. Deep down in his heart, he wanted to change. He wanted to lose the weight and become a better husband. However, his old demons had already caught up to him, and it was too late for any change. His health was getting worse and worse, and eventually he was unable to get dressed, using the bathroom, and his wife Lisa started to do everything for him. She basically became his home nurse. The 6th of February 2000, Big Pun was talking to his sister about getting a stomach surgery to help him lose weight, and together they decided he would go through with it. But it was already too late. The next day he was experiencing difficulty breathing, leading him to collapse. Medicals were called, but Big Pun's time was already up, and at only 28 years of age, Big Pun passed away due to a fatal heart attack. 2 months after his death, his second album was released. It received good reviews and it entered at number 3 in the Billboard 200. The following year, Endangered Species was released, a collection of hits, guest appearances and new material. It also performed well and it served as a final goodbye for the legendary rapper Big Pun. Christopher Lee will forever be remembered as one of the all-time greats. He had punchlines, charisma, and he wasn't scared of no one. His work ethic was out of this world, and his lyrics were technical like no other, with clever rhymes at a high-speed pace with almost no breaks. He was the first Latino rapper to go platinum. As a result, he became a hero in the Latin community, inspiring millions of people, which changed the game forever. Rest in peace, Big Pun.
And Pun, no matter how commercial his single was that made him sell 2 million records, was such a lyrical and such an underground type of guy where we hooked him up with Black Thought. He wanted to do a song. You know, his dream to do a song was always with Canibus. Canibus at the time was the most lyrical MC. Pun wanted to tear him down on a record and do it together. But Canibus, I remember a story, Pun waited in the studio for Canibus maybe like 12 different sessions. And he kept looking at his watch like, Joe, he won't come, he won't come. He don't want to do it. Call him up. Gas him to come, because Canibus was like known as the most lyrical MC. So Pun wanted to get on the joint with him and just tear him down. But Canibus knew not to step in that room with Pun.